Hi, my name is Chris, aka the Philosopher's Games, or TPhGames as my little games channel here is called, and this is part 1 of my Cyberpunk 2077 mod showcase series, I guess. In this first part I thought it might be smart to explain to people how mods are actually installed for that game and how I do stuff here on my system, so this will be more a short tutorial for those interested, and then in the next video I will showcase some really amazing mods for the game. But I also have some mods here for this part already that I use as explanation for the installing of mods and so on. Before we start, a few hints. First of all, mods you can only install on the PC version of the game. It doesn't matter if it's a Steam version or the GOG version, both is possible. We will use another tool called Vortex for this, and also the sites we use like Nexus mods also are definitely not safe for work, because in a game like Cyberpunk you have a lot of violence and also nudity, so you'll find more of that also on those pages, so just be warned. If you mod your game, it can happen that it will run unstable or even crash on start, so always keep track on what you have installed recently and just check if the game still is running. From my perspective, so at the time of this recording, the current patch is 1.63 plus Hotfix. So keep in mind that when a new patch comes out, for example when the Phantom Liberty patch will be out, most mods will stop working for some time until they are updated, so keep this in mind. Also, huge shoutouts and thank you to the modding community for updating their mods so fast after a patch came out. Usually it's just a couple of days, which is really impressive. It's also just the basic utility mods that need to be updated after a patch came out. Of course, there are some exceptions, especially the more sophisticated mods, and I think when Phantom Liberty will be out, because it's such a huge overhaul of Cyberpunk, there will be definitely some downtime for some mods, I could imagine. Another hint by my side is, if you have the storage on your hard drive, maybe make a complete backup copy of your Cyberpunk folder before you start modding. This might also allow you to switch back to an older version if you want. For those who don't need a detailed explanation how this works, here a too long didn't watch. So step 1 would be go to nexusmods.com, create an account and log in. Step 2, download the mod manager Vortex from Nexus Mods. Link is in the description. You can skip to step 7 if you plan to install all mods manually though. Step 3, install Vortex, drive does not matter, and open it. Step 4, maybe take a brief look into the Vortex settings and set them up as you like. Step 5, log into that account of nexusmods.com in Vortex itself. Step 6.1, on the left side in Vortex under Games, add Cyberpunk 2077 to Vortex. It needs to install an extension for it. Step 6.2, for the hard link deployment method of Vortex, the staging folder of Vortex has to be on the same partition or drive as your Cyberpunk 2077 installation, so see that this is set up correctly in the settings. Step 7, now you can download all the mods you like from nexusmods.com in the Cyberpunk 2077 section on that site. There is a button called Mod Manager Download. It will then activate Vortex and download it there. But always check if the mod you download requires other mods. Keep in mind, some mods can't be installed using Vortex, and there are 10, I would say, basic utility mods that most other mods require. These are, first of all, Cyber Engine Tweak CET, very common, Native Settings UI, Cyber CMD, Red Script, also quite common, Red 4ext, also really common, Archive XL, Tweak XL, Input Loader, Mod Settings, and Codeware. I think with those mods installed, you can basically install almost every mod on nexusmods.com for Cyberpunk. For those installing all the mods manually, you in most cases just have to extract the mods into the game's main folder. But let us return to the more detailed part of this video. In case you wonder, what even are mods? Mods are modifications of an existing game by some very talented people in the player base of that game. They start modifying files and adding functionality, quality of life features, or even new content to the game. And sometimes the developers support this and even provide tools for those people, and sometimes they don't, and don't even want to anybody to modify the game. In some cases, usually very old games, modders also fixed over time a game that was left in a very terrible state, or even porting an existing old game to make it run on modern machines. It's a huge community and there are a lot of use cases for this, and in my opinion it's pretty awesome. I would say that modding is of course more present for single player games, because in, let's say, competitive multiplayer games, there are measurements in place by the companies running those competitive games that prevent you or check if you have changed the game files. And if you did, this can be considered cheating and you can get banned for it. So be very careful modifying files or applying mods to multiplayer games. Though in some cases it might be possible without you getting banned, but it's always your own risk. For example, changing the player model or something like this, or getting a custom skin to your character. In some games that is actually possible, but as said, be a bit careful with that. Cyberpunk though is a single player game, and as a result, there it is safe to mod it as much as you want. And the developers also support it. For example, they added a modding framework called RedMod as a free DLC for the game that some modders use, and you have to install it though. But if it is installed, also the classic method of modding the game still works and they are compatible with each other. So keep this in mind if you see RedMod written somewhere. Where do you get mods from in general? I would say the biggest modding community is nexusmods.com. There's also ModDB for some older games and also various Discord servers. Keep in mind though, these sites are usually not safe for work, especially in case of Cyberpunk 2077. Where do we get mods for Cyberpunk 2077? Go to nexusmods.com, that is the site we will focus on. Open it in your standard browser, create an account and log in there. Then this is how the site looks. Go to the bottom of the site and there we will download Vortex. And Vortex is a very powerful mod manager that we will use. Click here on Learn More at the bottom of the site, download the latest version now, and under Files you can do the manual download. You need .NET 6.0, I think you say, and Windows 10 or 11 or higher, depending on when you watch this video. When you've downloaded the file, the exe file, install Vortex and open it after that. You can install it wherever you want, doesn't matter too much which drive you install it. I here install it even on a different drive than my Cyberpunk is installed, and then after it will open. So when it opened, we will check now the Vortex settings, and there's some interesting stuff in it. For example, I would recommend enabling profile management. You don't need to use this at all, but it allows you to basically create different profiles where different mods are activated and switch between those. It can be handy if you want to test stuff. Also, I would disable that mods are not automatically activated when you downloaded them. The reason is it gives you more control and especially the knowledge what is installed and what not. So if the game stops working, you have a clue what happened. Then under Vortex there's not much. Under mods we come back to this later. Under downloads you should change your download folder. That is a folder where Vortex stores all the downloaded mods as zip files on your system. And there's also Premium, which is like a paid subscription where you can support Nexus mods and the community basically. So that's pretty decent. You get better download speed for that. So if you haven't logged in yet to nexusmods.com in your browser, do this now. Then you click on this little login thing there at the top right, and then you see a link, and then a browser page should open. There you have to authorize that Vortex can access basically your nexusmods.com account. It's a bit complicated. I think I had some trouble initially, but I could kind of solve it when I was logged in my standard browser, so the browser that is opened by Nexus Mods. You will figure it out, just follow the instruction there basically. At the bell you also see like if something hasn't worked. Here they ask me if I want to have like diagnostic and data sent to Nexus Mods. You can disable this however you want. Next we have to add Cyberpunk 2077. So go to games, type in Cyberpunk and then add it. The game or the Vortex has to install an expansion for this to work. It becomes a bit tricky because there could be some problems. Like in my case, I have to fix a little problem. There's at the bell you see this red hint, and this has to do with the so-called hard link deployment method of Vortex. And this needs, you need a staging folder on the same partition or drive as your Cyberpunk installation, else this method does not work. There's a different method that also will work if this is not possible for you, but this one needs that. So I have to change this folder here under settings, under mods, and then it will work from there. If you want to use these mod profiles, you can also now create, before we install any mods, a new profile for that, and I call it just must have mods. You can add a description to it, you can clone existing ones, and basically just saves which mods are activated in this profile, and then you can just switch between these profiles instead of thinking, okay, which mod do I have to activate for this setup or so. Can be handy for some people. You can also do this later if you want. Step 7. Go to the Cyberpunk 2077 mod section of the website nexusmods.com, and there you can basically install all the mods you like if they are compatible. Always check though the requirements of those mods, because every mod, not every mod, but a lot of mods have the need for other mods. And one of those mods that are very often needed is Cyber Engine Tweaks. And just to demonstrate how this works, we will install this and also some other mods. So go to the Cyber Engine Tweaks page. I'll link everything in the description. There's a spreadsheet with links in it and so on, and download it. Use the mod manager download. And now Vortex notices, oh, there's a mod download for me. And then you see it under downloads, and it will appear under mods for Cyberpunk there. You might have to confirm in the browser that Vortex is allowed to open that link. And here you see it. Because I've disabled that it's activated automatically, I have to now activate it manually. What Vortex now does is it downloads the zip file from the page to the download folder and extracts it to the staging folder. And then from there, if you activate it, it is also extracted to the main game folder and is deployed, as Vortex calls it, there. And then it works. If you double click on Cyber Engine Tweaks or whatever mod you have in this list here, you can also change the name, the version number, and so on. For example, add utility to it, because Cyber Engine Tweaks is mostly utility mod that is used by other mods, but it has also, or can have, some functionality that you yourself also can use. There are also collections where you can basically say, yeah, all these mods here I add to one collection and then can share them with others, but yeah, check this out yourself. It probably goes too far for this tutorial. Then you can click on the play button on the top left and start Cyberpunk. Sometimes when you close Cyberpunk, you see this spinning circle I'm waiting icon. Double click on the Cyberpunk image there and then it should refresh. And to see if Cyber Engine Tweaks is installed, you have to press a key on your keyboard. I just showed you some keys that might be your key. I'm from Germany. For me, it's a key I showed you here on screen. And then this here opens, and there is, for example, settings. We can, for example, disable that you have to press the space bar when you want to get into the main menu after the game loads up. Then there's also this option here for people who have an AMD CPU and maybe some performance issues. This basically allows the game to utilize multi-threading for 8-core processors a little bit better, and as a result you potentially get a little performance boost with this. But this was originally patched into the game in 1.5, I think, but maybe you still struggle, so that might be for some people an interesting option. And you have also a console, which is very powerful. I link you also this spreadsheet here with all the console commands you can input there. I'm not sure if it's all, but a lot of them. Keep in mind that potentially most or almost all of these commands are cheating, so you can add money and other stuff to the game and so on. So it's potentially not ideal using these console commands on your first playthrough. Then under bindings, you can also change on which key this Cyber Engine Tweak menu opens. This also can open not only in the main menu but also in the game itself and do all kinds of stuff there. Don't change the key and forget what key you put it in, else you have to go into the Cyber Engine Tweak files in your game folder and change some files with an editor there. Or maybe reinstall the mod, that might also work. If you install other mods that use Cyber Engine tweaks, it is very likely that here under bindings in Cyber Engine tweaks, you also can set key bindings for those mods as well and put them on a key, which can be very useful. To install mods properly and make them work, you have to close the game, install the mod and start the game again. Another mod I want to show is the No Intrudes mod, and here you see it has no requirements, and this will save you so much lifetime, because especially if you experiment with mods, you have to restart the game a lot. Click on Files and then click on Mod Manager Download, click on Open, like there's a window then, and then it will appear in Vortex. There, enable it and then start the game. And you will now see how much faster the game will start. I recorded this here in real time, and I forgot to activate that I don't have to press a space button, else it would have been already in the main menu. And here, yeah, it's insanely fast. Next mod I want to show you is Simple Flashlight. The flashlight is not in the game by default for whatever reason, I don't know why. And you see here under requirements, it needs Cyber Engine tweaks, we have already installed it, and native settings UI. So we click on native settings UI first and download this mod, install it as well. This is also a basic utility mod that several mods will use, so it's very useful to have this installed. And then we also install the Simple Flashlight. I think it wasn't updated in quite some time, but since the basic utility mods work and are updated, this mod will also work. That's very often the case. And then you go into the game, and there you see a new thing that is the native settings UI. And there you see the flashlight settings. You can, for example, change the brightness, the color of the flashlight, and so on. We have quite a few options here, which I find pretty cool, I have to admit. And now, if you load into the game, go into the dark corner, you can activate the flashlight. It doesn't cast shadows, though. That's potentially the only downside. You activate it by pressing T. Also in Cyber Engine tweaks under bindings, you can now add a hotkey for this as well. That's the case for a lot of mods that require Cyber Engine tweaks. Another mod I want to show you that has basically no requirements is the Enable RayTracing Player Reflection. So your player in RayTracing has no own reflection, like a vampire. If you look into a mirror, you don't see anybody. And it downloads pretty much the same and has no requirements, and it also works over Vortex here in this case, and it basically just adds an .ini file to the game. For this to actually appear, you have to activate ray tracing though. Then when you're in front of a mirror, suddenly you see your headless figure. This is how it looks without this mod installed. This is how you now see your own mirror, but you don't see your head because it's not rendered. In the next video, I will show you a mod that is able to actually enable the head so you don't look that headless. But I think it kind of adds to the game because you not always see your character in full reflection, only partially. And this kind of adds some realism to the ray tracing elements of the game. And this brings us to the end of this tutorial video. As said, I will make another video with an actual showcase of some fantastic mods and maybe give you some hints if there are some problems with the installation or so, but I won't go through every installation, just show you what the mods do and what cool functionality they add to the game. I also mentioned in the Too Long Didn't Watch section that there are around about 10 utility mods that a lot of other mods require, and those are Cyber Engine tweaks, CET, native settings UI, Cyber CMD, Red scripts, very often used, also Red 4ext, also very often used, Archive XL, Tweak XL, Input Loader, Mod Settings, which is pretty similar to native settings UI, and Codeware. With those 10 mods, if you just install them, they don't cause any conflicts, and those also always have to be updated to the newest version, so if a new patch comes out, you have to update those 10 mods, and it usually takes a few days for that. And then quite a few mods will start working again, even though they did not get an update. So this is kind of the foundation of the modding in this game. But keep in mind, there are also exceptions to this. You can update the mods if there's a new version for it, in Vortex as well. There's like search for updates, or you can right click on a mod and look for updates there. There's a function for this, so keep this in mind. And this brings us to the end of the video, and I hope you found this remotely useful in any shape or form. If so, maybe press the like button, leave a comment, maybe also give me some recommendations of your favorite mods in the comments as well. And maybe if you want to see more Cyberpunk content or other gaming content, subscribe to this channel. I would appreciate that a lot. Also, thank you to all the people supporting me here on this channel and on the main channel, where I mainly cover Lord of the Rings and Tolkien stuff. There's also my small Twitch channel and so on. So yeah, every link you find in the description. If you are interested, maybe check it out. Much appreciated. I would say thank you people for watching, and see you next time. Goodbye.